So Judges is in the Parasha this week. It starts with judges and officers, and the judges are supposed to judge, and officers are supposed to execute. And we all know that the blessing is that in the days to come, where everyone would listen, there's no need for officers. The judges themselves, once they say something, whatever they said will happen. There's no need for officers. But today, in these days, if there are no officers, Chazal teach us that if there's no way to enforce the rule of law, then it's better not to have it. Which is very interesting. It's a good thing in general to know that when you're not able to enforce something, when something is not enforceable, then it's better not to have the rule. The Elimelech this week speaks about the two judges. That we know that there's two judges for a person. There's the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, and the Yetzer Ra, and the evil inclination. The natural, the basic instinct, the inclination of a person to do something naturally. So those two judges are there. They're always around to judge. And interestingly enough, the Elimelech says that the Yetzer Tov, that the good inclination is the officer in this case, not the judge. The judge, the basic instinct is our judge. We, all humans, Baruch Hashem, we walk around, we judge. We every time have judgment within ourselves, what to do and what not to do. But the Yetzer Tov, he enforces the law of Torah and uses that in order to do the right thing, not just to judge, which in the days to come, the judging themselves, the basic judgment will be correct, will be the right judgment. But today we also need to have the Yetzer Tov in order to judge properly. So we're going to start with the letter. The letter that Rabbi Ginsburg wrote starts with the fact that Elul is the month of Cheshbon, the month where we go back to Torah, we go back to our safe house, to the place where it all starts, Torah, and we go back to study and to learn. And what do we do when we go back? When we're sitting calmly, it's just like a business. A business is acting and doing the things that it's supposed to do. And then once a year, sometimes more, but after it stops the running around, sits in the office or in our case in a yeshiva or in a shul, in any place that's a good place, or some people in the hills, somewhere where it's a good place, it's a quiet place, and you do judgment, you do math, simple math of what has happened. And based on that math, the idea behind doing an audit, the idea behind reporting in general, is to make sure that next year is going to be a better year. So the math of Elul, the math of this month, is in order to have a better year next year. But the other side of Elul, we know that Elul is the month of love between us and Hashem, and love between Hashem and us. It's the month to stop running around and remember why we're here. We're here because we love Hashem, and Hashem loves us, and Hashem wants us to be good and to have good things, and we want to do good and to be in a good world, and that's what we're here for. Many times with a family, it's you have many kids running around, and sometimes it's good for the husband and wife, for the people in the family that want to appreciate it, to stop for a minute and look around and see all the kids running around and all the people doing what they're doing, whether it's a wedding or any time that there's a lot of people. It's good to stop for a minute and think, why are we here? And the reason we're here because we love the family in our case, and we love Hashem, and that's why we're in this world. And numerically, those two names, the math and love, math plus love, numerically equals Elul. So it's a good. I'm seeing that I didn't read it correctly because numerically it doesn't make sense to me. So let me.
What is the word for math?
Go again.
What is the word for math in Hebrew?
Cheshbon. Which is why numerically when I'm looking at it, it doesn't make sense. So I missed something. So give me 1 second. Oh, I missed it. It says Chodesh Elul, the month of Elul. Right. As I was doing it, I noticed that I missed something. So I missed the word Chodesh. So the month of Elul is numerically equal to the two words, which is love and math. You do the right math for the next year, and you think about the love that Hashem has for us and we have for Him. And obviously, we'll talk more about how that comes into play. ETL was telling that when he had this year a tough year, he asked the Rav about it. The Rav reminded him of a story. The story is that one time someone came to Rabbi Elimelech from Lezhensk, which we like to mention him, so here's a second time, and he asked him what should be the special work, the special avodah that we're supposed to do in the month of Elul. He wanted to stick around and look, and he told him, no, I have a brother. If I'm not mistaken, that brother was Natan, and he says, go and see what he does. So he went, and interestingly enough, that brother was running a let's call it a restaurant, and his wife was the chef, and he was the waiter, kind of running around. They didn't see the Chassid did not see anything special in the work that he did. So he waited quietly on the side, and he saw that at the end of the day, when it got quiet down and no one was there, the husband, Rabbi Natan, which again I think that was the brother, was sitting down, and he told his wife to bring their booklets, bring the let's call it the books that we were writing. And he had two special books, and he opened one book, and he said that Hashem, I'm going to do the math for this month of Elul, and I'm looking, and this thing bad happened to me, and that bad thing happened to me, and et cetera, et cetera. He was going through all his troubles, and at that time, and in that place in Europe, people were having lots of trouble, so it was a huge book. And when he finished, he said to his wife, okay, now bring the other book. And he brought the other book, and the other book had, interestingly enough, everything that he felt he didn't do right. So he had this thing I didn't do right, and that Aveira I did, et cetera, et cetera. And when he finished, he says, okay, so Hashem, I'm going to take both of them, and we're equal now. And he took the books and waved them around his head and threw them into the fire. Very interesting story, actually. When I heard it the first time, it didn't make much sense to me. Well, what is this? What is this? What's the point? Like, okay, let's say that he did good math. How does he know how to do the math? And how does this math make sense? The Excel numbers didn't make sense to me. And when I was thinking about it this time, when the Rav mentioned this to ETL and in general, I was thinking about it. I thought to myself that that's the difference between the math that we're thinking and the math of Rabbi Natan in this case, or in general, the math of a tzaddik. That in the math that we think, we're going to do exact math. And it's never going to work out because we don't know the numbers. I mean, we're humans. We're very, very limited. We can't see things. Even angels have a hard time with numbers, and so we're able to say to Hashem, this is what you did and this is what we did. How do we know? And the answer that I thought and that made sense to me based on this week's wonders is that that's the difference between when you do it out of ahava, when you do it with real love, than when you do math with yira, with awe or sensitivity, as we spoke. That when you do math with Yira, it makes sense that it doesn't equal up because you don't know. But when you do math with a Hava, it doesn't really matter. The math doesn't really matter. What matters is that you say to Hashem, okay, we're equal. Well, what is? I mean, if we look at it somewhat in a funny way of looking at it, we look at it from Hashem's perspective. What is he going to say? No, wait. Don't throw it in the fire. You forgot this and I forgot that. And no, that's not how it works. Hashem loves us. We did some math. We did our best. And that's it. And that's we put it all in the fire of love. And that's it. We love Hashem. Hashem loves us. We're trying our best. We're improving in the best that we could. We're doing the math. We're not skipping. So that's it. Then the fear and the sensitivity that makes us tremble from all this judgment is really cooled down by the love. When you're going into judgment, it's a very hard thing. But when you're doing it in front of your Father, there's a lot more love there, and there's a lot more ease to the fear, and especially when your Father is Hashem, that things should work out. Now, when we're doing math, this is the continuation of Rav Ginsburg's letter. So we said that there's two things in this month of Elul. There is the math of the month, and there is the love of the month. Now, when you're doing math, what do these two have in common? That one of the main things that you need to do, if not the main thing that you're supposed to do math about, is how much love you've had for everyone else. So not just to think of yourself, but to think of Hashem, obviously, but to also think of Am Yisrael, to love what our lover Hashem loves. And Hashem loves Am Yisrael. So we have to think of all the other people. And what do we have to do? We have to think of how to help people, how to give tzedakah, how to give in general, how to help everyone around. So again, when we're going back into our safe house, when we're going back into Torah, into learning, the main math that we're supposed to do is how to help people, whether it's helping people in study. Whenever you go to study, you should think of how to teach, how to let other people gain from the knowledge that you're getting, and in general, how to give. So that was again the main point, the way I understood it from the letter, which is those two things, math and love, and putting them together and then working to do good deeds, to do loving things, doing the math and doing good things. Now, if we look at Elul in general, except for Ahava, love, and cheshbon, and doing math, there's also illness, and there's also refuah within this month. How do we see it? So we know that the main illness of the soul, the nefesh, the main illness of it is being far from Hashem. That's the only problem that our neshama has, is that it's brought down to this world, and therefore it's not connected to Hashem. When you're connected to Hashem, there's no problems. But when you're not connected, you have problems, and that problems create an illness. The soul says in the Song of Songs, it says, Ki cholat ahava ani. I'm ill from love. When you really love Hashem, the soul loves Hashem, and it's far away. When is that? We had Bein HaMeitzarim, we had Tisha B'Av, we also had the summer vacation. Vacation is a time where we're helping the world and being close to people, but at the end of the day, we're far. So we're far from Hashem, and the neshama is being ill, is sick, and now we want to have refuah. When I have good health, that throughout the month of Elul, we get closer to Hashem. And getting closer to Hashem makes us healthier. Now, so if we look at Elul as a month of getting closer, we have to see what is the focus. Is the focus the fear and the fact that we were far and we have to do math? Or is the focus the love and the fact that we're getting close and that Hashem is coming out to us. And in the old days, the focus was more on the fear. And Elul was a time that, if you go to Litvak Yeshiva, and in general, if you go to a yeshiva, you see people screaming, Elul, there's tremendous amount of fear. That's the side that we're far. But as the Baal Shem Tov as time passed and we're getting closer to the redemption, to Geulah, then the love comes out more. And the month is really the feeling that we're supposed to have in Elul is that Hashem wants to give us a new year and a better year, and we're getting closer to Him, and therefore to His tuvcha, to His good. Now, what's the main campaign, the mivtza, the part that we can do in Elul to help other Jews around anywhere? It's blowing the shofar. We have the shofar, and we go to, you can go to a restaurant, you can go to a store, you can go anywhere you go. You can blow the shofar and connect people to Hashem. Obviously, the main mitzvah is in Rosh Hashanah, but it starts the whole month. And what is shofar? Shofar is the word shapru, is to get better. It's a calling. We're calling people to get closer, to get better. But that calling also comes with our desire to have a good year. Shana tova umetuka, and that togetherness, the fact that we're going to meet other Jews, the main feeling that we want to have is that we want them to have a sweet year. We're calling them, yes, we're asking them to be better, but that request is only to make us have a good year. Now we know that Tuvcha equals 37, and we said that this month is Elul is 30 days, plus 7 days ahead that was the Shabbat where we blessed the month of Elul. So 37 days, a full Tuvcha of Elul this year. There's 3 places in Tanakh that have the word Tuvcha. The first pasuk is Marav Tuvcha asher tzafanta li re'echa pa'alta lachosim bach neged bnei adam, which if we want to do a simple translation, we'll translate it that how great is your goodness that you've laid a way for those who fear you, and that you've worked for those who take a refuge in you. So there's 2 people. There's the people that fear, the yir'ah. If we want to split the world into two types of neshamot, there's the neshamot on the left, which is yir'ah, the people who fear you, and there's the neshamot who take refuge in you. Why do they take refuge? Because they're doing things that are challenging. They're going out, they're doing good deeds, and by doing things, as they say, when you do something, you fall. When you don't do anything, you can't fall. Same concept is these neshamot, these people that are connected to the right side, these people that do things, they do things that could get them in trouble. So what do? They take refuge in Hashem. They have tremendous amount of bitachon, of confidence in Hashem, and they take refuge in Him and say, yes, we're doing dangerous things. We're going out to the world. We're not just sitting and learning, but we're taking refuge in Hashem. So those are the 2 types of people. Now the pasuk ends neged bnei adam. Neged is against. Against could be one against the other. So they're going against people, meaning they're going to meet people and therefore they could fall. Or it could be neged, against, as the simple explanation that one against the other, that people are against them. When you want to do something good in general in the world, you'll find someone against you. That's a very good sign that you're doing something good. Someone is going to be against you. Someone's going to think you're doing wrong. And those people, they're not afraid. That's the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch, to not be afraid that people are against you. Yes, we want to do good. We want to do good in the world, and we're going to do it, and not be afraid. Now, what does this pasuk say? That who gives them all these things? The goodness of Hashem, tuvcha. In general, when there's a chaf sofit at the end of a word, it means that we're asking Hashem directly. It's going to the etzem, to the essence of Hashem. And the essence of Hashem, the one thing that we can say about Hashem for sure, that is the essence of Hashem, that He's good. That Hashem is good. And this Tuvcha also has another pasuk that we ask Hashem to the sins of my youth, chatat neurai, my transgression, do not remember. What is worthy of your kindness is to remember me, meaning you remember me, which means that chatat neurai ufsha'ai al tizkor, do not remember the bad things that I do. Leman tuvcha Hashem, for your goodness, zechor liata, remember, meaning remembering the dad, the knowledge. Is the question is, what are you remembering? What are you, the way I want to say it is focusing on. We ask Hashem to focus on the good things and to not remember the bad things. And that is the goodness of Hashem. That the judgment is much better when Hashem does it, and Hashem does it with His goodness, which is to focus on the good things. Now, again, we said that there's two types of neshamot, two types of people. There's the people from the left, the people that have yirah, that they're very sensitive and fearful pure people, and they like to study and be confined within themselves. And then there's the people of Ahava, the people that like to do things and go out and just be out there. And both of these neshamot are great neshamot. Both can fall into bad things, and both can be really, really good neshamot. Who do we have that resemble a very good place that the Alter Rebbe explains that these neshamot represent is Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. The machlokot between the sages, the house of Shammai, which was to the left, and the house of Hillel, their essence of the machlokot is to go to the left, to be more fearful and more conservative, or to go to the right and have more chesed and be more lenient. Now, how do we know that something is real? How do we know that something is good? That the many times that there are things that Beit Shammai were more lenient and Beit Hillel were stricter or more conservative. And the fact that they could switch and change, the fact that they didn't just go by their first nature, they went to the second nature, that shows that it's from the good side. Someone that only does what his inclination is, what he wants to do, what he feels like doing, that's not a person that's on the good side. The good side has sometimes you do the opposite. We know there's a very famous numeric gematria that Ginsburg said that Teva Sheni, the second nature, your second nature, the nature that we don't inherit but that we work on, is equivalent, it's 441, it's truth, emet. Now, usually we say that something that you've worked on, something that didn't come simple to you, that is the truth. But here we say more than that. We say that the fact that there is a second nature, the fact that you've worked on something, that shows that your first nature is also true. It makes everything true. The fact that you're able to have an inner inclusion between two things, the fact that you're naturally a person, let's say, of very strict and rigid and conservative, but on many things, on some things, you can go out and do things that are more towards the chesed or being lenient. That shows that even your first nature is true. But if there's nothing like that, if you always work based on your nature, if you're always strict, then that's not the right way. That doesn't come from the good side. Rav Ginsburg gave an example of a teacher. There's a lenient teacher and a strict teacher. But if they don't have times where the lenient teacher said, no, this is a red line for me, and vice versa, the strict teacher says, yeah, sure, that's fine, then that shows that they're not coming from the right side. In general, a woman is from the left side. Usually the woman's side is very strict, and men's side is usually very lenient and very outgoing. But as we see in this generation especially, but in general, that many neshamot are the opposite. That a woman has a lot more chesed in her, that her neshama is much more to the right side, and a man could have a left side neshama. So we can see that there's a lot of jumps. That's okay, as long as, again, we said that at the end of the day, there's inner inclusion, that one and the other, that a person works in his nature to have a second nature. And the second nature makes it that the first nature is also true. Now, what is the worst thing by Chassid? That when someone wants to be a Chassid, what is the worst thing? The worst thing is to be an outsider, to be someone that a show off, as they call it, to be someone that looks for other people to see him. Especially in this generation, we have a lot of that people have Facebook and Instagram and a lot of ways for a person to show off himself. Literally, people can every 5 minutes show off to others. And that concept, the core of that is the Chassid is very much against it. We do not want to show off. The opposite. We want to be in secret. We want to do things only between us and Hashem. We want to do things for the sake of doing them, not for the sake of showing off. Obviously, there's a second nature to use these things for the right things, but the essence of Chassid is not to show off. We know that Moshe, when he was asked to be a leader, 7 days he argued with Hashem to not do it. We know about many tzaddikim, obviously the Baal Shem Tov. The famous story of the neshama of the Baal Shem Tov is that in the old days in Tzfat, there was at the time of the Arizal, there was a person that Eliyahu Navi was sent to teach him Torah. And he was sent because of a special thing that he did when he was a bar mitzvah, when he was 13 years old. And he didn't tell anyone, and that's why he was sent to teach. And Eliyahu came to him and said, listen, I'm going to teach you the whole Torah, but you have to tell me what you did. And the person said, no, I'm not telling you. If you don't teach me, you don't teach me. But I did what I did for Hashem, and that's it. And Eliyahu went back up, and in Shamayim it made a big noise that he really did the right thing. And that not only did Eliyahu Navi came to teach him, but his neshama was later on in the Baal Shem Tov. That we see that being a hidden person, doing something in hiding is the essence of Chassidut, is the right thing to do. Now there are three things that we want to do in hiding. There's machshava, the thoughts, meaning we should always think how to be hidden, how to not only from other people, but also from ourselves, how to not do something in order to pat ourselves on the back, to do something very hidden. There is dibur, to talk about the fact that we're not big, meaning not be worried to say that you're not doing well. All the tzaddikim said it. And in the actual actions that we're doing, we should always make sure to not be recognized. Now, even when we want to do something good for everyone, we want to do it in hidden. We want to do it where our interest is not in front. Now, there's something very interesting that I noticed, that in general, when you're trying to be to help people, so many people think that politics is the way to help people. Sometimes it's true, many times it's not. But a politician by default is going to make good money. So he has an interest to be a politician. That interest, every time we look at them, especially if people look at politics in the Arab world, they're always thinking the people that want to go into politics, they only want it for their money, for their sake. So when you have an interest, when your interest is out there, then that ruins the fact that you want to do something good. And we want to do something good. We want to have Gula, we want to have redemption, we want to have Torah widely spread. We have to make sure that when we do that, and we should use all the media, and Facebook and Instagram and all the other ways that we discussed. You can use all these ways, but you should make sure every time that your interest is not in front. That the good of the public or the good of the other person that you're trying to do is in front. Many times, if you think about it, in Facebook, many people, what they want to do is they want to take pictures of themselves having fun and show off to others. And what that does is you look at everyone's world and everyone is always having a good time and only you have problems in the world. Maybe if people will do the opposite, when they're having a hard time, take pictures, maybe that would help other people feel better with themselves. I'm not saying to do so, but I'm just saying that shows that your interest is not in front. Now, when you're doing this in general, for example, if someone has a business and he does a sales call, you should think of your customer. What is the best of the customer? Oh, but what's going to happen about myself? I need to think of my business. You're right. That will come. When someone else will have something good, that will come to you too. You don't need to worry about it. If you worry about your customers, your good will come from it as well. But you need to worry in real about the other person. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he created the world, he hid himself. We can't see him in order for us to have a world that has the options to choose and to do things. Same thing when we're doing things, we want to hide ourselves in order to do things. I just want to explain a little bit more. I don't think I went into this whole thing. That there's, again, two neshamot. One side is Yere'echa, and the other side is Chosimbach, the right and the left. And the left neshama, the one that is very hidden, is the one that we always want to start with. Just like Hashem, when he created the world, created it first with judgment and then had mercy. Just like Beit Shammai is always before Beit Hillel, we always want to start with being hidden. We always want to start with sni'ut, with being modest. And when we start like that, then we can have, then when we're going ahead and being in public and doing things for other people, it will be shown off correctly. But the start, the core that we should aim for, that we should do the math this month, is to be private and to be without any showing off part, and that would create something that we can be that we can create goodness from it and truth to. Okay, I hope I explained things. I felt at the end that it wasn't 100% clear, so maybe someone has questions. So I see a question in the chat. Okay, so there's a very good question. We said that if a Beit Din, if a Jewish court cannot enforce something, it's better not to do it, not to have it. So the question that's asked is, today we are not able to enforce most of the Jewish court, the Beit Din's judgment. So is it better not to have them? The answer that I think is that it's better to have a Jewish court, but as you see in the court, if the court feels that it will not be listened to, then right away they throw it out. They're not willing to, meaning the Beit Din should be very mindful. We should have Beit Din because we want to have Beit Din. We want to have the right way. But the Beit Din, if they notice that their judgment will not be accepted, they should not be handling the court. They should throw it out. The only way to do judgment is if it could be enforced. And we're praying for the days where all of the things would be enforced just by default by people respecting the judges. Any other questions?
Does the cheshbon come from the side of Vura?
Yes. In general, math comes from sensitivity, from yirah, from gvura, from that side. That's the side of cheshbon, of the math, especially obviously the month of Elul, and in general, the side that does the math, the calculated side.
So is Elul like Tiferet, if it's a mixture of the two?
Correct. There is always Tiferet. We always want to do a mixture, but the mixture comes from noticing the two. Meaning when you have a right side and you have a left side, and they each have their independent, then they can be included into the middle. No one is only one side. We said one side is not good. But in order to get to the middle, you have to recognize the two sides. All right, so thank you everyone for showing up. As Rabbi Shem, we're hoping to get back in the rhythm, although we have the Yamim Tovim coming up. That's going to be challenging. But Bezrat Hashem, we should all do the right math, and with strong love to Hashem, we should be able to see Mashiach.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? I'll give it another 20 seconds, and then